Jason and I had agreed to go up to the Northeast to see the first snow. Right before we set off, he suddenly bailed. Sophie's mom was sick, and she couldn't get a ticket home. I drove him home. Sophie was his junior and the poorest student in their class. This was the third time he had stood me up because of Sophie, but this time I didn't cry or make a scene. I calmly proposed that we break up. On the phone, he tried to soothe me in that careless way of his. "Don't make a fuss, my little princess. I'm doing a good deed here. Be good and refund the tickets. I'll take you to see the snow over winter break." I didn't refund anything. I took my suitcase and got on the plane. He didn't know that this time I was truly determined to end things. As for the snow, I didn't need him to take me. There would be someone else willing to enjoy it with me. When Jason called, I was packing for the trip. The forecast said this year would be a cold winter, and the snow would come early. In mid-October, Harbin was about to welcome its first snowfall. As a kid who grew up in Guangdong, seeing snow had been my wish for years. When Jason found out, he tapped my head and said, "Then let's go this time." He paused, trying to remember something, and then smiled. "How does that saying go? If we share the forest snow in the morning, then in this life we'll share white hair together." So, we booked the flights and hotel right away. I read tons of guides and made a day-by-day itinerary, down to where we'd eat every meal. To look cute on the trip, I had already bought a red scarf, snow boots, a knit hat, and fleece-lined gloves. I kept mixing and matching outfits in front of the dorm mirror, and even my roommates could feel my excitement. Laughing, Nina teased me, "You're not going to be able to sleep tonight, are you?" I was just about to answer when my phone rang. It was Jason. I couldn't help showing off. "I bought matching coats. We can take a couple photos in the snow." Before I finished, he told me, "Emma, refund the tickets. We're not going to Harbin tomorrow." I went blank for a second and asked, "Why?" He said, "Sophie's mom is sick. She couldn't get a ticket home." I promised I'd drive her back tomorrow. I had already looked up trains from our school to Sophie's hometown. There were obviously plenty of seats left. "There are still a lot of tickets," I said. "You're looking at high-speed rail," he replied, chewing on a straw, as casual as ever. "Sophie's family doesn't have much. To save a little over 300 yuan, she always buys a hard seat on the regular train." On the other end, he went on in that lazy tone, "Emma's always kind. You wouldn't pick a fight over something like this, right? Besides, I'm helping someone. You should be proud of me." Staring at myself in the mirror in my bunny ear knit hat, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was already the third time Jason had stood me up to do something for Sophie. Jason and I were childhood sweethearts, promised to each other in a joking doll marriage when we were small. For as long as I can remember, he spent every birthday with me. Each year, he would press his palms together and make the same reverent wish. "I want to be with Emma forever. We'll definitely get married." After the college entrance exams, so he could attend the same university as me, he changed his application at the last minute and stayed in Guangzhou. Hand in hand, we walked the leafy campus paths, the couple everyone envied. The turn came in our junior year, when a freshman joined Jason's lab. At first, he kept complaining to me about how unbelievably slow she was. He'd taught her many times, and she still couldn't remember, and he didn't know how someone like that had even gotten into college. He said she dressed frumpily too. White top and black pants every day, like someone from the countryside. Later, when Jason found out Sophie's family was poor, and that she lived on financial aid, a trace of guilt crept into his voice the next time he brought her up. "She has to work part-time and go to class every day," he said. Jason once said she was as busy as a spinning top, so it was normal for her to forget things. I didn't think much of it at the time and even told Jason that since Sophie had it hard, he should help her more, within reason, whenever he could. I never imagined the first time Jason stood me up would be because he was taking Sophie somewhere. That day was our dating anniversary. I had booked a French restaurant well in advance and was waiting to have dinner with him. But he never showed and didn't answer his phone. The dishes came out and went cold, then were taken away, and only then did he finally call me back. "Sophie has a high fever. I took her to the hospital. I accidentally left my phone in the lab. I'm sorry, Emma, for keeping you waiting. It all happened so suddenly. You won't be mad at me, right?" I'll take you out for French tomorrow. But we wouldn't be able to go tomorrow. The place was packed, and I'd made the reservation a week ahead. Even so, I didn't lose my temper. I just nodded lightly and said okay. I told myself health comes first and an anniversary can be made up later. It wasn't unreasonable for Jason to take his junior to the hospital. But once there's a first time, a second time follows. Jason and I had agreed to go to a concert together, and he stood me up again because Sophie's period came early and she begged him to run to a nearby supermarket to buy brown sugar. He bought it and even brewed the drink for her. By the time he rushed to the venue, ticket checks had long ended and security wouldn't let him in. He explained to me, she was in so much pain, her face went white. You always suffer with cramps too. I thought of you, so I helped her. I could only laugh bitterly and, coughing, asked, couldn't she just order delivery? Why did it have to be you? He said, delivery costs a fee. Her family is poor. She wouldn't want to spend that money. I was right there with her. Isn't it normal for me to go? It's not like I'd ever like a country bumpkin like that. Emma, what are you worried about? He stopped halfway through his explanation because Sophie called to say there was a problem with her experimental data, and he hurried off again. The concert was a bust. I'm going back to the lab. The data for Sophie's project has an issue, and our advisor wants it turned in tomorrow. If I don't help her, she'll get scolded to tears. With that, he turned and left me standing in front of the arena by myself. The early autumn night breeze was chilly. I shivered. My jacket was still in his bag. I called after him to get it, but he got into the car, rolled down the window and said, "My little princess, don't make a fuss. I'll come coax you when I'm done with this." I watched the car speed off in a cloud of dust, then walked back to the dorm alone, clutching my sleeves. I was cold all over, and my heart felt numb. I came down with a high fever as soon as I got back. Jason was too busy to check on me. At the same time, I saw him in Sophie's Moments post. He was bent over a computer, tinkering with something. Sophie captioned it, "The best senior in all of China, bought me pads and brown sugar water, and even helped me process experimental data." I stared at those words for a long time and suddenly realized something between Jason and me had changed. In the past, if I went out one layer short, he'd worry I'd catch a chill. But today I'd coughed several times. I was shivering from the cold, and he acted like he didn't see it. It wasn't that he'd grown careless, it was that his attention was on someone else. I practically tortured myself by rereading Sophie's Moments post over and over until my cheeks burned. My fever spiked. I burrowed under the covers and pressed my face into the pillow. For the first time, the thought of giving up on Jason crossed my mind. Half asleep, I had a dream. I dreamed of Jason as a teenager pulling me from the water when I fell in. He was shaking as he carried me on his back, terrified I'd pass out, talking to me non-stop the whole way. He said a lot, but the dream kept looping back to one thing. "Emma, if I do something wrong in the future, will you give me 3 chances?" Back then I said yes. Now those 3 chances were used up. It was time to break up. When I told Jason we should break up, he was silent for 3 seconds. Then he asked in a low voice, "Just because I didn't take you to the Northeast to see the snow, you want to break up?" I didn't answer. I stared down at the route on my phone's map. From Guangzhou to Sophie's hometown was more than 1,100 kilometers by car. Jason hates long drives. Whenever we planned road trips, if the destination was over 1,000 kilometers, he wouldn't even consider it. Turns out he could make an exception for someone else. Don't be unreasonable, okay? Her parents are getting divorced. Of course she has to go home. We're not in a rush to see the snow. I'll take you over winter break, he sighed, forcing patience. Be good, my little princess. Refund the tickets. I crouched on the floor, folding my clothes one by one, and all I felt was how absurd this was. You're willing to drive Sophie home to save her 300 yuan in train fare, but just canceling my plane ticket costs me over 1,000, I said. On the other end, he suddenly let out a laugh. So that's it, little penny pincher. You're upset about the money. That amount is nothing to us, but it's different for Sophie. Every cent she spends, she earns herself. She can't just hold out her hand and have someone give it to her like you can. She's stubborn and won't accept help. If she bought a high-speed rail ticket this time, she might not even be able to afford dinner when she gets back. Even though he wasn't in front of me, I could picture his face from his tone, thick brows, thin lips, that quick, sharp gaze with a tenderness he couldn't quite hide. My chest tightened. I shot back, if she won't accept help, then why is she willing to let someone drive her all the way home? Jason used to be so patient, but this time his patience frayed fast. Emma, what exactly are you making a fuss about? If you can't bear the cost of the ticket, I'll pay for it, okay? Why talk about her behind her back? Jason had never spoken to me like that since we were kids. My hands paused over my suitcase, and the hurt I'd been holding down surged up. He realized he'd gone too far. Emma, I cut him off. Jason, we're breaking up. Every time something happens, you throw break up around. Are you really that flighty? Is this trip to the Northeast that important? He snapped. Don't be ridiculous. If you say break up again, I'll take it seriously. Then you can cry about it. I lifted the matching coat out of my suitcase. I'm serious, I said. He sounded like he was laughing from anger. Fine, break up it is. The call ended, and all my roommates were looking at me. One of them ventured, Nina, are you still going on the trip? Yeah, I've already planned everything. Why wouldn't I go? It's not like I have to have him take me, I said, lowering my head to keep packing. I was finally about to see the snow I'd been dreaming of, but for some reason my chest felt tight and blocked. Just then, I received a video message from Jason's roommate, Ethan. I tapped it open. In the clip, Jason had his back to the camera, playing an online game. One roommate asked him, Jason, Emma's about to break up with you. How can you still be in the mood to play? Without turning his head, Jason said carelessly, She won't. Emma's just jealous and stubborn. She's throwing a little tantrum. Don't I know her? If I go a few days without talking to her, she won't be able to stand it and she'll come begging me to get back together. The roommate asked, Aren't you worried she'll go to the Northeast by herself? No, Jason replied, sounding sure. She's timid. She's never traveled far alone. How could she go? And she loves taking photos without me. Who would take photos of her? It wouldn't be any fun. Then a voice came from the computer. It was Sophie. He was in a voice chat with her while gaming. The video cut off there. I felt baffled and sent Ethan a question mark. He replied quickly, Emma, I'm not someone who likes stirring things up. I don't mean anything else by sending this. I just wanted to ask if you're still going to the Northeast. I happen to have a flight tomorrow too. I'm planning to chase the first snow, same plan as you. And I do photography. I've got a DSLR, an action cam, and a drone. If you don't mind, could we team up and be travel buddies? Of all Jason's roommates, I knew Ethan the least. His family was well off. Rumor had it, he was the heir to a publicly listed conglomerate, and he never lived in the dorms. I'd seen him once at the photography club. My first thought was how good-looking he was. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, perfect proportions. Not long after that, Jason told me Ethan had moved back into the dorm, but said he was aloof, didn't click with the others, and skipped group dinners. As far as I remember, he only went to one gathering. The other guys all brought their girlfriends. Only Ethan came alone. Set against all those couples, he looked out of place. That was when we added each other as contacts, but we'd never said a single word. Staring at his message on my screen, I thought it over. I don't really like traveling alone. Having a travel buddy to look out for each other would be nice. And Ethan seemed reliable. So I agreed. Okay. The flight's at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Let's meet at the airport. From a distance I spotted him, carrying a black suitcase, wearing casual pants, standing by the glass doors. Maybe his looks were just too striking, but he stood out in the crowd. When he saw me, he gave me a polite smile and naturally took my suitcase from my hand. I can carry it myself. I tried to stop him. It's no trouble, he said. After we finished check-in, we boarded together. Our seats were next to each other. He cleared his throat lightly, pulled a neck pillow from his bag, and handed it to me. You can use this to sleep later. I blinked. After all the emotional ups and downs yesterday, I hadn't slept well, and I'd woken up with dark circles, exhausted. On my private alt account, I'd even posted a note. I'm going to catch up on sleep on the plane. It'd be perfect if I had a pillow. That little account is just for my daily ramblings, so private that even Jason doesn't know it exists. Of course, Ethan couldn't possibly know that. I figured it had to be a coincidence. Have you done any planning? Do you want to look at my itinerary? I asked him. He nodded and while scanning my plan said, You put a lot of thought into this. You've covered the major spots. There's just one small issue. See how you scheduled 4 sites on day 2? They're in different directions and pretty far apart. If we try to hit them all, we might run out of time. I'd suggest grouping St. Sophia Cathedral, Dowley Market, and Central Street together. They're close to each other. We can do those in one go. I watched him take out a pencil and adjust the schedule, and I was slightly taken aback. When I traveled with Jason before, I was the one who always did the prep. He knew nothing about the sights or the food at our destination and never bothered to read my plan. If my schedule was too packed or filters tricked me into a tourist trap, he'd tap my head and grumble, Emma, did you slack off and not plan properly? My feet are about to fall off. What's so great about this dump? Over time, I forgot that traveling is something 2 people should plan together. Ethan was different. He had clearly done his homework and quickly refined the itinerary with me. Once the plane was in the air, I got sleepy and drifted off. When I woke up, my head was resting on Ethan's shoulder, and my hand was on his leg. He sat stiffly, not moving at all. Startled, I straightened up and apologized. It's okay, he said politely. You were sleeping soundly, so I didn't wake you. Over the next few days, Ethan and I explored Harbin according to plan, and I realized he was a great travel buddy. Unlike Jason, he didn't complain that the restaurants I found weren't good enough, and he didn't just snap 2 perfunctory photos and call it a day. Whether it was barbecue or iron pot stew, he couldn't stop praising it. Emma, you're amazing. Every place you found is delicious. When taking photos, he searched for good light, guided me into poses, and the shots came out great. The only downside was that the first snow the forecast had promised still hadn't fallen. Luckily, we'd taken a few extra days off, so we still had time to wait. That day, after leaving Volga Manor, I was aimlessly scrolling on the subway and happened to see Sophie's moments. I tapped into her profile and found that Jason appeared in every post. At first, she still called him Senior. Thanks to my senior for driving all day to take me home. I'm letting him have the room. Guess I'll squeeze in with Mom. Boo-hoo. Later, she switched to someone. Someone really is a city boy. He's never even seen geese and got chased all over by them. After eating all kinds of delicacies, someone actually said my bucket rice tastes better. Someone insisted on dragging me up the mountain to pick mushrooms, but bro, what mushrooms are there in this season? He says this sea of rolling green forest on the mountain is even more beautiful than the snow in the northeast. She was posting like she wanted to upload 800 times a day. Weren't her parents supposed to be getting divorced? Why did he look so cheerful there? I had just turned off my screen when Ethan suddenly held out his phone to me. Emma, I'm not someone who likes to stir things up, but there are some things you should know. He showed me his dorm chat. A roommate had asked Jason how things were. Jason wrote, Pretty good. Conditions in the countryside aren't great, but it has its own flavor. Another roommate asked, Have you reached out to your Emma Lou? She might really have gone to the northeast. I haven't seen her in class the past 2 days. Jason replied, How would I dare? There are so many students in the general electives. You not running into her is normal. I didn't reach out to him. I was trying to teach him a lesson so he'd stop tossing break up around so casually. Jason, you're a little too confident, a roommate wrote. Emma's so pretty. What if someone takes advantage while you 2 are fighting? Jason replied carelessly, You're underestimating her feelings for me. Anyway, it's been 3 days without contact. He's definitely in the dorm too upset to sleep. Once I finish hanging out with Sophie here, I'll give him a call. It was just square blocks of text on a screen, but reading it made me feel sick to my stomach. I lifted my eyes to Ethan. So, what are you trying to say? Nothing, he said. I just think Jason has no boundaries. I'm not trying to stir the pot, I just want to ask. With a guy who casually drives another girl home and even stays at her place, you're not getting back together with him, right? At that last question, his tone shifted, careful, a little probing. I'm not, I said. He didn't press further, slid his phone away, and a faint smile flickered in his eyes. The ride back from Volga Manor was long. I'd been playing hard for days and was dead tired. I fell asleep on the subway. My phone, shoved in my pocket, nearly slipped to the floor. Thankfully, Ethan caught it. Half dreaming, I heard my ringtone. The car was crowded, and Ethan was standing very close. I could feel his body suddenly tense. After 3 rings, he said, "Emma, it's Jason. Do you want to answer?" I shook my head. I was exhausted and just wanted a bed. I didn't want to waste time on Jason. "Then I'll pick up for you?" he asked. My sleepy brain lagged, and by the time I understood, he'd already hit accept. Jason's lazy voice came through. "My little princess, have you made enough of a fuss? I'm at Sophie's place now. I'll be back in 3 days. I even bought osmanthus jam for you. I know you don't really want to break up, and I won't hold it against you. Don't say things like that again, got it?" His tone oozed condescending magnanimity, as if I were the one in the wrong. I felt both amused and disgusted. Ethan let him finish, then asked evenly, "Are you calling for Emma?" Hearing a man's voice, Jason went silent for 3 seconds. Then his pitch shot up. "Ethan, where's Emma? Why do you have her phone? You mean Emma?" Ethan glanced at me, eyes closed, dozing, and the corner of his mouth tipped up. "She's wiped out and sleeping next to me. Do you want me to wake her?" I really had been out all day and had nodded off on the subway. What he said was objectively true, but it still sounded strange. On the other end, Jason paused, then let out a breath. "Oh, I almost forgot it's Wednesday. You and Emma have the same class. I haven't talked to her the last couple days. Is she crying non-stop? She must be tired from crying. Let her nap with her head on the desk. I'll call her back later." I hadn't expected that reaction. Ethan paused for a moment, then let out a quiet laugh. "You really are at ease, huh? If it were anyone else, I wouldn't be, but you're different." Jason laughed too on the line. "I've met your arranged match, tall and stunning. Half the guys in the building were staring. With someone that good around you, why would he ever look twice at a childish little crybaby like Emma?" From the phone came Sophie's voice. "Senior, who are you chatting with? I just made osmanthus cake. It's still warm. Want a bite?" Jason hurried to hang up. "I've got something to do. We'll talk later." When the call ended, Ethan noticed I was awake and handed my phone back. "Want to grab a late-night snack before we head in?" he asked. My stomach was growling, but I shook my head. I'd always assumed Ethan was single. Today, I learned he'd had an arranged match. And he was still out alone with me. That didn't feel right. At the subway exit, a vendor was selling tanghulu. Ethan bought me a green grape one, my favorite. But this time, I didn't take it. On the walk back to the hotel, the more I thought about it, the more inappropriate it felt. I've always believed that if you're attached, you shouldn't find an opposite-sex travel buddy. It's irresponsible to your partner. So I deliberately put some space between us, figuring there were 3 days left on the itinerary, and I'd just go solo. I was debating how to bring it up when Ethan called to me first. "Emma?" He was standing in my doorway, leaning against the frame, and said seriously, "I did have an arranged match before, but we never had feelings for each other. The last time he came to campus, it was to discuss canceling the engagement. It's been called off, and I've won the right to choose my own marriage from my parents. In other words, I'm single now." His long bangs shaded his eyebrows as he looked down at me. "I'm not saying this for any other reason, just to avoid unnecessary misunderstandings. I'm not like Jason. He had a girlfriend and still kept things blurry with other girls. I'm not that kind of person." He straightened up and held out the green grape tanghulu he'd been carrying the whole way. "I don't like this flavor, and it'd be a shame to toss it. Considering I took so many great photos for you today, could you do me a favor and finish it off?" I looked up at him. Ethan really wasn't like Jason, at least not in personality. Jason hated clearing up misunderstandings. He said misunderstandings only happen when there isn't enough trust. So whenever I misunderstood him, he never explained, just let me guess, eat myself up inside, and spiral. Only today did I realize men can actually use their words. I took the tanghulu from Ethan. "Okay. See you tomorrow." After I washed up and was about to sleep, a message from Jason came in. "Emma, back at the dorm? I haven't gone to bed yet. Sophie's bed is so small I can't even turn over, but at least the bedding's clean. It's pretty comfy staying in the countryside. Next time I'll take you out here to play." I told him I wasn't back at the dorm, I was in the Northeast. Little liar, You were just in a general elective with Ethan. You think I don't know? Okay, stop sulking. I want to hear you act cute, send me a voice note. How had I never noticed he was out of his mind? I was seeing Siberian tigers tomorrow. I didn't want to waste time on him. I hit block. The next second, he called. Emma, have you made enough of a scene? I already gave you a way out, he snapped. I almost laughed. Lying in another girl's bed with her pillow under his head and her blanket over him, and he was messaging me, that was his idea of giving me a way out? I couldn't be bothered to argue. I reminded him, Jason, we've already broken up. Don't bother me unless it's important. He snapped back. Are you still going to make a scene? Believe it or not, I'll really break up with you. Go ahead, I said. After a moment of silence, he ground out, Fine, break it is. Whoever crawls back first is a dog. Don't come crying to me. For some peace, I blocked his number too. The next day, Ethan and I went to the Siberian Tiger Park as planned. The snow I'd been waiting for still didn't fall, but the tigers were adorable, like giant, golden-shaded cats. We sat in a vehicle caged with iron bars, watching them leap into the air to snatch at meat. Through small, round openings, we could even use chopsticks to feed pieces right to their mouths. The forecast hadn't been very accurate. It had said temperatures would drop below freezing, but they stayed above zero. The air was heavy with moisture. Instead of snow, a downpour came. We took shelter under the eaves, and when the rain finally stopped, several puddles had gathered on the ground. One of them was directly in our way. It looked deep, and I was wearing white sneakers. One step and they'd be soaked. I was still weighing my options when Ethan suddenly crouched in front of me. Hop on, he said. I blinked. Huh? Your shoes aren't water-resistant. I'll carry you across. I hesitated and glanced at his footwear. Black leather boots, solid enough for rain. Seeing my reluctance, he explained gently. Travel buddies help each other. We still have other places to go, and walking around in wet shoes won't be comfortable. There aren't any insoles around here either. So I looped my arms around his neck and let him carry me over the puddle. Ethan has long legs and usually walks fast, but maybe because the path was slick, he moved slowly. Up close, I noticed his skin wasn't just fair but smooth, and his lashes were long and curled, like little slides. He probably doesn't wear cologne, but he had that rain-washed, grassy scent. Maybe from the layers he was wearing, he seemed a bit warm. A faint blush rose behind his ear and crept down his neck. Once we cleared the puddle, he set me on a step, then suddenly leaned down and reached toward the top of my head. His presence fell over me, close enough that I could see my reflection in his pupils. Startled, I was about to step back when he drew his hand away. Lying quiet in his palm was a dry leaf that had blown into my hair from who knows where. He'd only meant to brush it off. As if he hadn't noticed my fluster, he asked in his usual tone, Want a modern ice pop? Sure. I nodded, and the little moment passed. It was a full day, but as our return drew near, there was still no sign of snow. Worse, the forecast before we left had promised snow these days. Now that I was here, it kept showing rain or clouds. It looked like the snow was going to stand me up. I sighed, opened my private alt, and wrote my daily ramble. I really want to see snow. Could it please fall before I go back to Guangzhou? I'm not asking for much, just flakes the size of dandruff would do. After I posted, an account commented, You'll get what you wish for. The handle was familiar. We'd followed each other a long time but never DM'd, just left comments on each other's posts, a few words of comfort when things were rough, a quick congrats when things were good. Like any ordinary kind stranger online trying to cheer me on, he commented with encouragement, and I replied, I hope so. Before dawn the next day, I woke up and, anxious and excited, pulled open the curtains, only to be disappointed again. It was overcast. I sighed. Any trace of sleepiness was gone. I scrolled through moments for a while and happened to see Sophie's latest post. Someone says he really likes the mountains. Good thing he took me home this time. If he'd gone to the Northeast, he wouldn't have seen a single snowflake. Total waste of money and time. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Ethan stood outside, smiling as he urged me to get up. I stared at him, confused. This is so early, the plan wasn't like this. Exactly, he said. I'm taking you to see snow. Dress warm. Ethan took me straight to the high-speed rail station and bought tickets on the spot to Hengdao Hezi. The scenery outside the window shifted, from withered fields to northeastern villages with smoke curling from chimneys. An hour and a half later, the train pulled into Hundehezi East. It had snowed all night, and fine flakes were still drifting down, settling in my hair. The tip of my nose prickled, my chest fluttered, and suddenly I felt giddy. Ethan flagged down a minibus into town. The small town was ringed by forested mountains, stern, austere slopes softened by gentle white snow. As we drew closer, yellow Russian-style wooden houses came into view, along with a weathered platform and tall birch trees. Snow piled on rooftops glittered silver, and cooking smoke rose in thin ribbons, weaving with the morning light into a warm tableau. I didn't even bother with my umbrella. I plunged straight into the snow. It was cold, colder than anything I'd ever felt. Frost formed on my eyelashes, and the hiss of wind over the snow drowned out our footsteps. But everything in the snowfield felt wonderfully new. A steam locomotive thundered past through the forested plain, and a lamb in a farmhouse yard broke into a run beside me. Ethan followed behind, laughter in his eyes. Usually when he took photos, he'd guide me into poses. Today, he simply stood to the side and snapped candid shots. At noon, we ducked into a small local place and ordered a heaping plate of guoboro and a dish of dishan xian. After lunch, the snow came down even harder. My cheeks were flushed from the cold, and Ethan tugged my scarf up to cover half my face. Winter in Hengdaohezi fulfilled everything I'd imagined about the north. My idea of snow finally became vivid and alive. Before leaving town, Ethan seemed to be thinking about something, glancing around. It was still the off-season, and there weren't many tourists. An older gentleman out for a stroll happened to pass by. After a moment's consideration, Ethan asked me, "Emma, could we take a photo together? Just as a memento." Going out together and taking a photo felt perfectly normal, so I nodded. His eyes lit up. He stepped forward and stopped the gentleman, asking him to press the shutter for us. The elder knew how to direct. "Closer. Why so far apart? Be friendly. Did you just meet? Yes, hold that pose, don't move." He worked with surprising flair. The old gentleman couldn't figure out the shutter, so the pose we'd set up never got captured. What he did catch was the awkward moment when Ethan and I glanced at each other. Heavy snow was tumbling down, dusting our hair until it looked almost white. Both our cheeks were flushed red from the cold. When I boarded the plane back to Guangzhou, all I felt was how perfectly this trip had wrapped up. Ethan, though, seemed a little wistful. It's hard not to feel a dip when a good trip ends. Just like when we'd set out, he naturally took my suitcase and walked me to the dorm. Before I headed upstairs, he cleared his throat and suddenly asked, "Emma, how am I as a travel buddy?" "Great," I said. He tested the waters. "Then if you want to travel again next time, could you invite me? I'd like to get out and see more places too." I nodded politely. Back at the dorm, I divided the Harbin red sausage I'd brought back and shared it with my roommates. One of them had eaten at the cafeteria and got back late. As soon as she walked in and saw me, she jumped in before I could speak. "Emma, you won't believe how speechless I was just now. I saw Jason eating with that freshman girl of his, laughing it up. Since you two broke up, I didn't bother saying hi and was going to walk past. But he actually stopped me and asked if you'd been crying in the dorm these days." Munching on a piece of sausage, I asked, "What did you tell him?" "I said you weren't crying. You went to the Northeast and had a great time. But he insisted I was helping you lie, and said if you realize you were wrong, go find him. He won't really break up with you. Maybe we've been together so long that he's gotten the illusion I can't live without him." I stared at his name in my block list and had no intention of taking it off. In all the years I've known Jason, this was our longest stretch without contact. But we still ended up meeting at my house. My dad and Jason's dad are business partners, and our moms are close friends. The two families often have dinners together. That day, my mom said there was something important and insisted I come home. The moment I opened the door, I saw Jason. There were 6 seats. 5 were already taken, and the only open one was next to him, so I had to sit there. Jason looked at me and leaned in to whisper, "Emma, it's been a week. You look a little rounder. Is it swelling from crying?" "Not swelling," I said evenly. "The food up north was too good. I got fed fat." I ignored him after that, but he grinned. My little princess, it's been long enough. You can stop being mad, right? That bag you said you liked, I bought it. I'll give it to you later. And didn't you want to see snow? I found the perfect spot. Sophie's hometown is at a high elevation. There's snow in winter, and you won't even need to fly. When I take her home over break, you can come along and see the mountains all covered in white. I lifted my eyes and told him calmly, "No need. I don't want extra entanglement with an ex." I hadn't finished when the conversation at the table suddenly shifted. Our elders turned the topic to me and Jason. "The kids are almost graduating," someone said. "Isn't it time to think about marriage?" Jason's mom smiled. "They've always had such a good relationship. Emma is the daughter-in-law I've set my heart on. Why don't we pick a good day and hold the engagement banquet first?" Only then did I realize what my mom's important matter was. "Emma, what do you think? How should we handle the engagement banquet?" Jason's mother looked at me and his father chimed in. "On something like this, we should hear what the young lady wants." In an instant, every gaze at the table landed on me. My parents watched me with earnest, expectant eyes, waiting for me to speak. Jason leaned over and, in a low voice, reminded me, "Emma, if you want to throw a tantrum, do it in private. Don't bring it up in front of the elders. It worries them, and it's hard to wrap up." It wasn't the first time he'd said that, so every time I felt wronged by him in the past, I swallowed it alone and left my tears for the pillow. But this time was different. "We had to let both families know," I said softly. "Jason and I have already broken up. The engagement should be void." The words hit like a stone in a pond. The biggest reaction didn't come from the elders, it came from Jason. He frowned at me, anger flaring. "Emma, have you made enough of a scene? An engagement is a big deal. Just because you're unhappy, you think you can scrap it? Is this funny to you?" Our parents chimed in with disapproval. "Emma, you shouldn't be so willful," they said. "If there's a misunderstanding, you can sit down and clear it up." Jason's mom told him to be quiet, then turned to me gently. "Emma, did Jason bully you somewhere along the way? Tell me, and I'll set him straight. I promise he'll listen to you from now on. I've watched you grow up, and we've all seen your years with Jason. Don't act on impulse." Against the chorus of objections, I smiled. "I'm not being impulsive, I've thought this through. I hadn't planned to bring up the breakup at the table. I'd meant to tell my parents privately. But since things had come to this, it was better to say it openly." "Jason, what did you take leave for last week? Did you tell your parents?" Clearly he hadn't. At my question, his expression turned uneasy, so I said it for him. He drove 1,500 kilometers to take a junior home and stayed at her house for 6 days. Jason's mom blinked. "Is that true?" Jason rushed to frame it from the moral high ground. "You raised me to be kind. That junior's family is poor, her parents are divorcing. She was desperate to get home and couldn't buy a train ticket, so I took her." Jason's dad nodded along. "Helping a classmate is a good thing. Emma, don't overthink it. Jason likes helping people, that's a good trait." I'd always thought well of Jason's parents. They'd include me on outings, think of me when they saw pretty trinkets, and prepare red envelopes with blessings for me every new year. But people are closer to their own, and I knew they would instinctively take Jason's side. So I opened Sophie's moments. I'd never deleted her. I'd been waiting for this moment. "This is the junior's feed," I said. "You can take a look." The phone went around the table. As Jason's parents scrolled, their faces grew darker. It was obvious they saw how suggestive the posts were. Only Jason looked blank. He stared at Sophie's posts on my phone, then pulled out his own to compare, muttering a curse under his breath. "I never saw any of this," she blocked me. He looked at me. "Emma, I didn't know she posted these. Half those words, I never said. She made them up. I only ever treated her like a regular junior. If I'd known she felt that way about me, I wouldn't have paid her any attention." With just a few lines, he cleaned himself right up, and Jason's mom followed the opening. "Emma, since the misunderstanding is cleared up, then don't talk about breaking up. It's hard enough to find a good match these days, especially one that's well-suited." Jason's mom said, "Look at Jason. His build, his looks. Is there anyone at your school who's better than him?" There actually was. Ethan was the acknowledged campus heartthrob. If you ranked them, Jason would only come after him. As if he'd guessed what I was thinking, Jason cut me off first. Sure, Ethan's handsome, but there's no way it's you and him. He's into someone right now. I heard he turned down an arranged match and even changed his lock screen to a girl's back in the snow. I paused. A back view in the snow? Was that a stock image or a photo? Jason's mom was still asking, Emma, are you mad because you planned to see the snow in the Northeast and Jason stood you up? Auntie will pay, go over winter break. She's already been, my mom, silent until now, finally said, pulling up the photos I'd sent her from the trip. Emma went to the Northeast last week. I thought you two went together. She frowned, puzzled. But if Jason was with that junior, then who did you go with? Jason stared at my pictures from Hengdao Hezi, then asked in disbelief, You didn't refund the ticket? I refunded yours, not mine. No wonder my roommates said they didn't see you in the elective class. Then why was Ethan in class with you? He stopped mid-sentence as it clicked. The person who went to the Northeast with you was Ethan. I nodded. We were wiped out that day and I fell asleep on the subway. He answered your call. I never hid anything from you. His expression shifted from shock to anger. You traveled with another guy? So he did know it was inappropriate to go off alone with the opposite sex. And you slept in another girl's bed, what's the problem? I said. I broke up with you before I left. A single woman traveling with a single man isn't immoral, is it? Dinner was anything but pleasant. Because of the breakup, every plan the parents had made fell apart. Jason, who had been breezy all along, finally panicked. You're really willing to leave me? Back when we were dating, breaking up always felt terrifying. Every time we went no contact, I'd be so miserable I couldn't sleep, waiting anxiously for his messages. Now that it had actually come to this, I suddenly felt that no one is indispensable. When it's time to cut ties, you cut them. Life goes on. I looked at him and said softly, I am. After family dinners, Jason would usually go back to campus with me. This time, I walked back alone, posting little grumbles on my private account as I went. Arguing so much we barely ate. What a waste of a whole table of food. I decided if there's ever a next time, I'll eat first and argue after. I wanted dessert, jasmine milk pudding and a durian milk crepe. I walked slowly, hoping the evening wind would smooth out my thoughts. After seeing Sophie's moments, my parents were disappointed in Jason. Our engagement was essentially dissolved. A decade plus of feelings had finally reached the point where bridges go their way and roads go theirs. Emotions churned in my chest. I pulled my coat tight and, after a long time in the wind, trudged back to the dorm. At the foot of the dorm building, I saw a tall, lean figure. The breeze had mussed the fringe over his forehead. He stood beneath the kapok tree, craning his neck, waiting. He looked like he'd been waiting so long he could fall asleep. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. Carrying a cake box and 4 cups of milk tea, Ethan walked over. The cake was durian milk crepe. As for the milk teas, there were a lot. Fresh leaf matcha, juicy grape, osmanthus rice wine, and jasmine milk foam. He explained, I suddenly wanted cake today but bought the wrong flavor. Ended up with durian milk crepe. Crepe. I don't like durian. I remembered you saying on your trip that you love it, so I brought it for you. I pointed at the 4 cups in his hand. Did you buy the wrong milk teas too? No. Under the dusk streetlights, his shadow stretched long. He pressed his lips together lightly. I prepaid a card at the campus milk tea shop and it expires today, so I rushed to buy a bunch. It was a story full of holes, but I didn't call him on it. I just thanked him. Then thank you. How much? I'll transfer it to you. He gave a slight start and shook his head. No need. If you don't want them, it'd be a shame to toss them. I should be thanking you for helping me take care of all this. Afraid I might refuse, he stuffed everything into my arms and left. There were 4 milk teas, just enough for each of my roommates, and one was exactly what I'd been craving, jasmine milk foam. Watching his retreating back, I drifted into thought, and suddenly realized my little alt account was like a wishing charm. I once wished to snag concert tickets. I didn't get them, but a classmate sold me his 2 at face value. Another time I signed up for a Polaroid giveaway and wished to win. My name wasn't on the list, but the organizer sent me a Polaroid anyway, saying they'd added a lucky prize, and I happened to get it. It was almost too lucky. Lucky in a way that felt a bit unreal. After that day, Jason sent friend requests over and over. I never accepted, so he waited downstairs at my dorm. Tired of it, I looked at him and said, "Have you heard the saying, a proper ex should be like he's dead?" He only shook his head. "Emma, after so many years, how can you just cut it off? People are strange. When they have something, they don't cherish it. Once they lose it, regret hits like a wave." He also told me, "Don't trust Ethan. Guys like him, rich family types, are just in it for the novelty." I told him bluntly, "Ethan isn't why I broke up with you, and I'm not with him." He kept coming to find me, and even dragged Sophie along. I'd seen her once at a lab dinner I attended with Jason. Back then she was timid, dressed in drab gray, speaking so softly, looking easy to push around, and the other guys in the lab kept pressuring her to drink. I couldn't stand it and quietly tapped Jason's hand. He caught on and blocked the drinks for her. The girl in the corner suddenly lifted her head, eyes shining. This time Sophie was different. She had makeup on and wore a long, white dress. Clinging to Jason's arm, she called for him to go to the lab. "Senior, my code won't run." In the past, Jason would have agreed, but this time he brushed her off. "If it won't run, talk to the advisor. What are you asking me for?" Sophie came 3 times and got turned away 3 times. On the 3rd try, she lost her temper. "Jason, don't you like me? You and Emma have already broken up. Why are you still clinging to her? Why can't you be with me?" Jason let out a short, disbelieving laugh. "Like hell I ever liked you." Jason snapped. "If you don't like me," Sophie shot back, "then why did you block drinks for me at that lab dinner when they kept trying to make me chug?" "Because Emma asked me to help you," he said. Sophie, startled, gathered herself and pressed on. "When I was hauling heavy stuff upstairs and everyone else ignored me, if you don't like me, why did you help? And if you don't like me, then after you found out I couldn't bear to spend on breakfast, why did a bottle of milk show up on my desk every other day? What you feel for Emma is just habit. The one you like is me." Jason choked on that, teeth clenched. "Emma told me you've had it hard, so she asked me to help when I could. And that milk was never from me. When Emma came to the lab to see me, she'd bring an extra for you, that's all." Sophie clearly hadn't expected that. She froze, and after a long silence lifted her eyes to me, incredulous, her rims reddening. The truth wasn't quite that simple. Jason's kindness to her did start because of me, but later it went off the rails, without my say-so. I can't swear whether he ever fell in love with Sophie, but I do know his heart wandered. And once a man's heart wanders, he's no longer a man I can keep. I was in a rush for class and didn't keep tangling with them. That day my little wishing alt worked again. I'd ordered a big plate chicken, but my roommate bailed at the last minute, so I posted a note, hoping someone could swing by Pine Peach Garden to help me defeat it. 15 minutes later, Ethan happened to be passing and joined me for dinner. Over the meal he chatted about the snow in Altai, how Himu village is gorgeous in winter, with the nearby Jakipulin ski resort and an 11-kilometer run we could try sometime. We parted on good terms. He said he'd send me some winter shots of Himu later. Less than an hour after that, trouble hit. Jason got into a fight with him. A video of their brawl landed in the group chat, and my roommate forwarded it to me. When I first heard, I was worried. Jason learned Taekwondo as a kid and has a black belt. Ethan, though he looks like he works out, has that polished, well-bred air. Not exactly the type to brawl. After watching, I let out a breath. It was about a 40-60 split, Jason 40, Ethan 60. From the footage, it wasn't on campus, but at a park outside. I even faintly heard Jason say my name. Since it clearly involved me and I was nearby, I went. By the time I arrived, Ethan had the upper hand, practically pinning Jason as he hit him. Jason cursed, furious. "If it weren't for you, Emma wouldn't have broken up with me. This is all because of you." I'd only ever seen Ethan gentle and courteous in front of me. This was the first time I saw him like this. Sleeves rolled, chin tipped up, voice cold, the picture of defiance. "Her breaking up has nothing to do with me," he said. "You're just an idiot who can't tell a two-faced green tea when you see one. Easy for you to run your mouth when you've never had to own it. Can you even tell the difference?" Jason ground out, furious. Ethan only answered coolly, "I can, because I'm green tea too." Then they went at it even harder. But the moment I stepped closer, Ethan, who'd been trading blows a second ago, suddenly dropped his hands. Jason's next punch slammed into his shoulder. Ethan clutched the spot and didn't hit back. He just stood there, face drained of color. A scrape at his temple bled, a thin line running down his cheek. It looked bad. Jason hadn't noticed me yet. He shouted at Ethan, "Why'd you stop? Scared?" Then he finally saw me and hurriedly pulled back. I went to Ethan's side and asked if he was okay. He swayed, clearly in pain, but still managed to smile and shook his head. "I'm fine, Emma." Jason came out of nowhere and started swinging. "I don't even know what happened. He's not exactly stable right now. You should go. Keep your distance." Jason had calmed a little, but at those words his temper flared again. "Cut the act, you fake green tea. You're disgusting." They looked ready to brawl all over, but thankfully the counselor arrived and took them both to the hospital. Ethan looked more battered, but it was mostly surface wounds and would heal quickly. Jason wasn't so lucky. Ethan's shots had landed where they wouldn't show, and more than a few were internal. Since Jason started the fight, he had to take the disciplinary hit, and he was the one who got admitted. I didn't leave right away. I pulled up a chair and sat by Jason's bed. He was uncomfortable, but forced himself to look at me. "Do you remember," I asked, "when I fell in the water as a kid and you saved me, and you begged me to give you 3 chances in the future if you messed up?" Jason blinked, dazed, then nodded a little. "I think?" Something like that. So he'd already forgotten that I'd given him those 3 chances. "The first time was our dating anniversary. You stood me up for Sophie. I watched the dishes go cold, and my heart sank along with them. The second time was the concert. You bought her pads and brown sugar water, and even reworked her experimental data. I spiked a fever so high my roommates took me to the hospital for an IV, and you decided I was throwing a tantrum and ignored me for 3 days. Back then, staring at the needle in my hand, I told myself I'd give you one last chance. If it happened again, we'd be done." Because I'd stayed, at first a hopeful joy spread across his face. But as I went on, that joy shattered piece by piece into confusion and regret. "I really did like you," I said softly. "The kind of like where I wanted to marry you. But I don't like you anymore. I'm only telling you this to make it clear. Our breakup has nothing to do with Ethan. Don't drag unrelated people into this." With that, I turned to go. From inside the room, I faintly heard Jason choke back a sob, like wind skimming a cold windowsill and dimming a quiet lamp. At the doorway, I ran into Ethan, who hadn't left yet. Seeing me come out so soon, he let out a breath of relief and hobbled over. "Emma, could you walk me back to the dorm? I twisted my ankle. It's a bit hard to get around." I paused. As far as I remembered, his foot shouldn't have been hurt at all. I was about to ask when our counselor came over warmly and took it upon herself to see Ethan home. So, I headed back to the dorm alone. I opened my private account, looked at that familiar mutual follower in my list, and for the first time opened a DM. "Are you asleep?" Clearly he wasn't. He replied in seconds. "Not yet. What's up?" His tone felt like we were old friends. By now we'd known each other 4 years. I remembered our first contact. You'd posted a note saying it felt like your future was boxed in and life had no meaning. When I saw it, I misunderstood and thought you might hurt yourself. So for a whole month, I checked in every morning in your comments, asking how you were doing. He was probably puzzled that I brought up the past out of nowhere, but he still played along, reminiscing with me. "That's right, you also encouraged me to pick a hobby, like photography. On your recommendation, I got into it, and slowly fell in love with it. I'm really grateful to you." I stared at that sentence for half a minute. I typed and erased several times, and finally sent, "Do you like me?" He answered quickly, "Yes." So I sent another, "Ethan, do you like me?" He was clearly online a second ago, but this time no reply came. I waited 3 minutes. Nothing. Sure enough, when people have an alt, they can be bold. Without the mask, they hesitate. After a while, he slowly sent a question mark. "How did you know it was me?" "Because you gave yourself away," I wrote. "I think some things should be said clearly. I'm grateful that you like me, but my last relationship just ended. Jumping straight into a new one would be irresponsible to myself and to the other person. I need a downtime to recalibrate and make sure I'm not starting something new just to fill a void." A moment later, Ethan sent a voice message. His voice was soft and clear, reminding me of the drifting snow in Hengdauhezi. "I understand," he said. "You deserve time. It's just, Emma, you're wonderful. I waited so long for you to break up, and I'm afraid if I'm a step late, someone else will beat me to it. I'm not in a rush. Set your own downtime and adjust at your pace. I'll wait. I'm not pressed for a moment or two. And Emma, I really like you. After that call, I slept soundly. Ethan and I became friends who met up occasionally. We talked travel and photography, the snow in the Northeast and the Gobi in the Northwest. As for Jason, after we laid everything out that day, he didn't come to me again. Our parents' relationship wasn't much affected. When we met at banquets, we exchanged calm nods. But Jason wasn't doing well. He'd lost a lot of weight, his cheeks visibly hollow. His mom tried several times to persuade me to reconcile, and I declined each time. He asked my parents to put in a word for him, but they didn't agree. Let Emma decide for herself, they said. Life was quiet. I focused on looking forward to a winter break trip. But before break, I suddenly received an apology letter. There was no signature, but from the content, it was clearly from Sophie. I thought I liked Jason, so I tried all kinds of ways to drive a wedge between you. Later I realized the kindness I craved was given to me by the person I hurt, so I'm sorry. I think when two people truly love each other, they won't be pulled apart by outside meddling. So in the end, the problem was with the relationship between me and Jason. After that, winter break arrived on schedule. Ethan and I became travel buddies again. We didn't go to Altai, we headed back to the Northeast, this time to Changbai Mountain. Snow flew like salt flung across the sky, heavy with weight, brimming with a rough kind of life. Right at the point where frost began to gather on my eyelashes, we started up 1,442 steps and finally came upon a sweep of white at Heaven Lake on Changbai. Ethan took stemmed glasses from his pack, poured champagne and clinked with me. Smiling at him, I handed over my phone. Tell me if my new wallpaper looks good. He lit the screen and went still. The new lock screen was the photo we took in Hengdao Hazy, two people with cheeks flushed scarlet from the cold, grinning goofily into the camera. Ethan, do you like me? I asked. He said he did. I don't know who had climbed to Heaven Lake, blasting a song on their speaker. In the snow we fall in love. They say vows crystallize below zero, never shatter. The lyrics fit the moment. I tilted my head at him. Then don't just be my travel buddy. Want to be my boyfriend? The snowfield blushed into a gentle peach orange. Ethan reached out his hand, and in a daze I thought I heard someone nearby say, "May you stay together till your hair turns white at Changbai Mountain."